Hi, I'm going to show you a quick tutorial on how I edit and post-process my Nikon D750 photos using Nikon's ViewNX 2 as well as Nikon Capture NXD. I begin with ViewNX 2 and look at all the photos that I want to edit, and by edit I mean select and rate my photos so as to identify which ones are good and which ones are the ones that need to be further post-processed. Now, one of the good things about ViewNX 2 is that it allows you to look at various camera information such as the camera information, the exposure information, and the image settings that you use when taking the photos, and even allows you, for instance, to look at the copyright and image comments that you may have put into your camera, as well as the scene type. For instance, I've taken this photo using the low-key scene mode, and this photo using the selective color mode, and this with the color sketch mode, whereas the rest are just taken using aperture priority or automatic mode. Now, the first thing that I do is to select all of my photos and label it by right-clicking on the photos and applying the label 5. Now, I can do it this way, or I could have just selected it by using the bottom status bar here and selecting 5, but I'll just select here, and by using the label number 5, what I'm saying is that these photos are ready to be reviewed, and if I then, during my review process, label a photo to be less than 5, for instance 4 or 3, that means that photo needs to be further post-processed. Whereas if I had given a photo a rating more than 5, then that photo is accepted without any further need of post-processing. The next thing I do is to add some information about the photos, like the title. Now, what I've done is I've created a preset where I normally would just select all of the photos, right click, and load an IPT preset which I've created earlier, and this would add in the necessary basic information like copyright info and contact info about myself. And how I do this is to actually put it in the edit options menu, where you can go to the IPT preset and set the information that you would like to add. And then I could put in the event. For instance, in this case I went for a holiday in the Langkawi Island, which is in Malaysia. I could put a description for each of the photos, but for now I'll just leave it blank. And after that I would also select all again, and I would like to indicate the location info. Now, at this stage, as you can see, the location is blank. Instead of having a GPS device that's connected to the camera, I just manually put the location info using the map feature in ViewNX 2, and in this case this was taken in Langkawi, so I'll just search for Langkawi, and here we are, the Langkawi Island. Okay, let me see, I had taken the photo somewhere up north here. We take the add location pin and click on a particular point. I believe it was taken somewhere around there. Click OK, and the information would have been added to all the photos that I've selected, and you can see a little global icon below each photo. So you can see the GPS coordinates that were put in from the map just now. So at this stage, what I've done is I've labeled the photos to be ready for review, which is fine. I've added some information as well as the location info to the photos, and what I'm going to do now is to actually identify which of these photos are okay, or those that need to be further post-processed. And I normally do that by going to the image viewer, which gives me a more larger view of the photos. And let's say that I'm quite happy with this particular photo. I would select both the JPEG and the raw images and mark it as 6, in which case I'd accept it without any processing, and then I'll go to the next photo. In this particular case, I'm quite happy with it, so I'll select all of it and mark it as 6. Right. This photo probably needs to be cropped and maybe adjusted in exposure, so I'll mark that with a 4. Okay. And these were some photos that I was just playing around with the effects feature of the D750. Mark this acceptable without any further edits, together with this image as well. And this last photo, okay, definitely needs to be post-processed, so I'll mark that with a 4. Next, what I do is I rate each photo to say whether I like them or not. In this case, I use the ratings or the stars here to indicate the how much I like each photo. So in this particular case, I quite like this very much, so I give it a 4-star. This is quite good as well, so I give it a 4-star. This may be just a 3-star. These portraits, I'll probably just give it a 3-star, and this particular one maybe 4, 3, and these were just testing around, so we get 2-star. Oh, okay, another 3-star, and this one maybe just a 2-star, although probably with a bit of adjustment and straightening will probably be quite okay. So at this stage, what I have is a set of photos that have been reviewed. As you can see, there are no photos here with a number 5. They've all been reviewed and labeled accordingly, and also added information, given a GPS location, as well as rated. I can in fact use the filter function here and just look at all the photos that need to be further post-processed in this case, or only the photos that can be used without any post-processing. And I can also look at the photos that I like, so those which are 4-star, and so immediately you can tell at this stage what photos that you have identified to go into NXD, which is the next stage. Now we go into Capture NXD, where we see the same set of photos that has been labeled as well as rated, and the first thing that I do is to actually filter only the photos that need to be further post-processed. Okay, you only see the NAF raw files, not the JPEGs, because obviously you only want to edit and post-process the raw files. And I select and double click on one of the photos, and in this case the first thing I want to do is to straighten it. So you select the straighten tool and you click and stretch and draw a line to match the point here, so that it is automatically straightened. And then you need to crop the photo, I wish there was an auto crop feature as in Lightroom, but in this case it doesn't have, so you have to manually crop it. And I would select here the aspect ratio, which is 3:2, and simply drag the corners of the cropping tool, in which case you'd have to rotate it so that it follows the portrait mode as opposed to the landscape, and just select the edges so that it is cropped according to what you want. In this case I'm quite happy with it, and click again the crop tool, and the image is straightened and framed reasonably nice. Now at this stage, what we'll do is we'll need to adjust the exposure, and you can see all the adjustment tools on the right side. We'll start with the exposure. You can just click on the little arrow here and select the amount of exposure to be compensated. I'll select -1, and notice that it's not dark enough actually. So let me just select it here, and that gives -2 exposure compensation. You can of course type it manually in the box here, but -2 looks okay to me. You also have a feature called active delighting, which allows you to brighten up the shadow areas while maintaining the highlights. I don't know whether you can see this clearly on the video, but it's brightened a bit of the shadows while maintaining a general good look on the highlights. So after adjusting the exposure, I'll go to the white balance. In this case, actually this was taken early in the morning, and it's got a slightly more bluish tone to it. Yeah, something like that. So I prefer a slightly more bluish tone to this image. That gives it a cooler look. Right. You can use, of course, the gray point sample tool if you want to actually sample it off a particular object, or manually drag the sliders. And the next palette here allows you to change the picture control, and in this case this is the original setting. You could choose, say, a neutral picture control, or a vivid. Okay, that's a bit too vivid for me. Let's look at a portrait. Okay, portrait looks really good. I think that's got a nice tone to it. And if you notice that every time you select one of the palette items here, you're given a more detailed version, a more detailed set of sliders that you can control. And in the case of the Nikon D750, you've got the clarity feature, which let's zoom in here so that you can have a look. I don't know whether you can see this effect on the video, but you could, for instance, increase the sharpening. Okay, let's just boost the sharpening so that you can see it on the video. So this is increased. I noticed that with the Nikon D750 you can actually push up the sharpening quite a bit, and it doesn't quite, you know, mess up the photo, so that's quite good. Clarity is a new feature. If we were to push it down, it gives a very soft effect, probably good for portraits. And if you were to boost it up, it increases the detail and textures of the subject. So in this case I'll just set it back to normal. So you can play around with these sliders. Double clicking will zoom in, and you can look at the effect in detail. And you also have uh, a feature to change the brightness and of the image, okay, as well as the contrast. You can lower the contrast or increase the contrast, and of course increase the saturation if you want, or decrease it to give it a sort of retro look. Actually, that's quite nice actually. And in case you wanted to compare against the original photo, you can select the multi-preview before and after images here, and here you can see what it looks like compared to the original. Remember, this was the original. I had to straighten the photo and crop it slightly, change the exposure and the white balance and whatnot, and you can see the effect after all the adjustments was made. So you can go back to full screen mode. Other things you can do is you can set the noise reduction, which is automatically set actually by NXD depending on the camera. On the Nikon D750, it uses the better quality 2013 method for superior noise reduction. You have the camera and lens correction. In this case, it automatically sets the distortion control and vignette control, and you can disable that if you don't want to. You can play around directly with the curves if you would like, using the LCH editor. This one is for straightening that we did just now, and this is for sharpening. So as I said, you can put quite a bit of sharpening. Normally I do about 30 or even 40 depending on the image. Since this is architectural old building, I want to add a bit of grittiness to it, so I'll push it up to about 40 or even 50. And lastly, you've got the typical levels and curves tool, which allows you to adjust the brightness and darkness again of the midtones. And there you have it. So what I do then is I would mark the photo that I have already adjusted to 7, meaning this is already to be post-processed, whereas this I have not actually done any kind of adjustments yet. And if I'm okay with that, I could just go and click the convert files and save the image onto my hard disk, or alternatively I could actually also copy the updated adjustments and paste it to another set of photos, and right click and paste the adjustments if these were similar photos to this image, and it would actually paste all the adjustments that you have done for this photo to the other selected photos that you have. Let me continue by just doing quick adjustments to the remainder of the photos. And in this case, I'll just want to add a bit of delighting and add a bit of highlight protection. Okay, I'm okay with that. In this particular image, I'm just going to crop. Okay, somewhat tight crop there. Generally okay with all that. And again, I will mark the photos that I have adjusted by applying the label 7, and the labels 8 or 9, I may use it for other purposes, like identifying whether I want the photos to be printed or published in a book. So once I've done, I'll just select all of the photos and click the convert files, and here you can output them to a particular folder. Select whether you would like it as JPEG or 16-bit TIFF if you want to do even further processing in something like Photoshop. I'm just going to set it as JPEG and click the start button, and there you go. So Capture NXT will start processing each of the raw files, and when it's done, you have your JPEG files all ready. And go back to ViewNX and go to my temp folder, and you should be able to see the JPEG files output. So there you have it. Hope that was helpful to you for using the ViewNX 2 and Capture NXT as a simple workflow to editing and post-processing your Nikon D750 or Nikon photos in general. Thank you. Bye.